Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of TCG Talk, back today with another video. And in today's video we're going to be going over the results from the latest Ascent in Seattle, talk about where the meta is at in Grand Archive and have some fun with it, and also where the meta is going to go, because this event was very unique where we had a very dominating deck, but that deck may not be as dominating in the future. We'll talk about it. So if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thank you so much for stopping by. Hopefully you enjoy your stay. If you're a long-staying supporter, thank you so much as always. Feel free to check out the Discord down below, and we'll get right into it. Again, if you're new from the Grand Archive community to my channel, welcome. I'll talk about this a few times over the next few videos until it's like a little bit more normal. But I make TCG content both for Flesh and Blood and now Grand Archive, and I like to do very conversational content, not a lot of edits. I like you to feel like you're having a kind of in-depth discussion with a player at your local game store. That's the style of content I try to do, so hopefully you enjoy it. But regardless, we'll talk about the Ascent Seattle. So this was a huge event. Like I said in my last Grand Archive video, this game is growing so much. The 2-year anniversary of the game coming out is next month. So it's a very new game still, and we're having 288 players at an Ascent, which is insane. We had Dalchan and Gualja, both brand new champions to the Abyssal Haven set. And I think a lot of people were really excited to play them. So that it makes sense that a lot of people showed up with these two decks. And both these decks seem pretty competitive out the gate, especially Dalchan with her Fractals deck. And that was kind of like the story of the weekend, right? A lot of people were doing, and we'll go over it in another video later this week on what Fractals is and how, like, what's the general game plan, and then also how to beat it, really. But not like stomp it, but how it can be beaten and countered. But a lot of top players and a lot of players in general brought a Fractals Dalchan list in. The basic, like, quick 10-second elevator pitch of it is you put out Fractals, which basically in general trading card game terms are like mana rocks with upside, because normally you have to put cards down from your hand to pay for things, but most of the Fractals have what's called reservable on them, which means you can turn them sideways to pay for something, right? It almost works as a land. They also have additional abilities, some of them like glimpsing, being able to like look at the top of your deck, and basically you're trying to put out a bunch of Fractals, survive, and then play a couple kill cards that have to do with how many Fractals you have on the board, like Refracting Missile, Shimmering Refraction, and then finally Burst Asunder. So you're trying to put these Fractals out on the board, keep them alive, and then combo your opponent in the mid game. That's the essential like base level of what the deck is. So a lot of people brought that with Dalchan. And then Xander also is, I think, the biggest surprise. I did not expect Xander to be the third most played deck. I thought we'd see Arasana be up there with Kong Ming, keeping the same strategies as they did last meta. But seeing Xander at third was pretty surprising, because Tristan has been like the more favored assassin, I'd say, in the last 6 months plus. Xander does come back in the fold, like in the aggro versions, but we actually saw some Luxem Xanders come into play as well, which is really cool. Then it goes down. Sylvie's way down there now, right? With the recent bans, it's not as applicable, you know, and so on and so forth. We even had a couple Dianas, which I love, but 288 total players, which, you know, we had, 38% of the meta was with the 2 new heroes. So a lot of people were super excited to play new heroes. That's kind of how it goes in this game for the most part. And get right into it. The thing that I was excited about was the spirit breakdown for day 1. So for anyone that's not aware, in this game, the last 2 metas, right, or the last 2 iterations of the meta have been very dominated by water. Water's been absolutely destroying. Wind comes in every now and then. But really, this game has kind of evolved. When the game first came out, it was all about fire and wind, mainly fire. Just aggro, allies going nuts like crazy. Water had a very big identity crisis, so to speak, and didn't have quite the tools to deal with the other 2 elements. Then we had some wind domination with like Lorraine, and then Tristan did really well with Kara's the Outlook and things like that. And then recently, we've now switched to a water meta where we had Icebound Slam and like these control decks that would mill the opponent and cause havoc, right? We haven't had all 3 elements kind of do well at the same time. And now we're starting to see a balance in the elements, which is really cool to see, because we're not really used to seeing that, so to speak. So fire and water being equal, and then wind being just underneath, is really nice to see that kind of day 1 spirit meta breakdown, and kind of the them all said and done being equal. Then we went into day 2. So Dao Chan did really well, 45% of the day 2 meta. In order to hit day 2, there were 60 players that got day 2. You had to hit 18 points. They recently changed the top cut rules to make it more beneficial to stay in the tournament. Top cut used to be really ruthless. I think it was top 32, and now it's like you said to have 18 points. So you play out your matches day 1, and a win is worth 3 points, and a tie is worth 1 point. And if you hit 18 points, then you make that day 2 cutoff. So we had 60 players make day 2 after 10 rounds of Swiss. So you could have a total of 30 points. You basically have to have 6 wins or like 5 wins and 3 ties. That's basically the way it looks in order to make day 2. So Dao Chan did really good. Xander, we had 7 Xanders out of 10 or 30. So just under 33% of the Xanders made it. A lot of the Dao Chan made it. Couple Tristans as well. Sylvie did not make the cut. Diana did not make the cut. But yeah, this is kind of how it went. Again, Dao Chan, this on like face, when you don't know a lot about this game, this looks really unhealthy, right? Like this is like, oh my gosh, one deck is completely just destroying the meta. And for this one event, this one deck did do really well. But this deck is very counterable. It's a kind of a flash in the pan deck for my Flesh and Blood peeps. It's very similar to how Syndra was when she first came out and had the red line deck, but a little bit more flash in the panty. Not to say this deck won't be prevalent in future events. I think it still will be like a top deck, but it won't be this. It'll be a lot more balanced. It's just a lot of people saw this. Not as many people probably tested for it or wanted to like directly counter it. So, and the game's still growing. It's only a 2-year-old game. So like the whole, testing teams and people figuring out the meta way before events doesn't happen as often as it does in other card games. So you'll see this change a lot. This is definitely an anomaly, I think, in terms of a event. Then we had the top 8. We had, I think it was, if I remember correctly, I'll be a professional YouTuber here and look it up as I'm talking, but it was actually a pretty diverse top 8 for the most part. I think that a lot of people were expecting. Here it is. So the Seattle top 8, the first seed was a Fire Xander, second seed was a Water Dao Chan, third seed was a Water Dao Chan, fourth seed was a Fire Terra Dao Chan, fifth seed Fire Gualja, sixth seed Wind Luxem Xander, seventh seed Wind Lorraine, and eighth seed was a Water Dao Chan. So we had 4 Dao Chans, 3 Water, 1 Fire, and one that the Fire actually went into level 3. We had a Fire Xander, a Fire Gualja, and a Wind Luxem Xander and a Wind Lorraine. So as you can see, really good spirit distribution. I mean, we have 3 Water, 2 Wind, and 3 Fire. That's really, really good. Then we had 3 Dao Chans, 4 Dao Chans, 1 Gualja, 2 Xander, and a Lorraine. So even though Dao Chan really dominated the event as a whole, the top 8 was pretty diverse. And it's really cool seeing a straight Fire Xander list. And it was a Fire Xander list that ran Sadie and was really trying to slice and dice early. Not every time, but that was one of the key things they were trying to do. Which was really, really cool. And then we also saw some other interesting things from the Wind Luxem Xander, which was also trying to do. Wind Luxem Xander was really the one that was trying to do the Sadie into slice and dice. But all that being said, True Cabin team, TCG Cabin ended up getting to the final against EMP. Cabin was on a Water Dao Chan list, and EMP was actually on that Xander list, I believe. And it was really cool to see those two go back and forth. Cabin is very much essentially the best player in this game. Cabin ended up taking it in the final, this is now his 3rd Ascent win, which is insane. It's again, for my Flesh and Blood peeps, that's someone winning 3 callings in 2 years. Really, really strong player. And it was just really fun to watch and see how this folded. It went out. But all that to say, going into this next meta, I know Dao Chan really kind of dominated this event, but I think people saw a very, I don't want to say linear, but a very consistent and one-track mind strategy that works very well. And if you don't have a plan into it, it's going to blow you up. And I don't think everyone had a plan going into it this event like they should. Because a lot of people in this game play what they enjoy playing. So Not everybody's just going to play the best deck or play the deck. That's the one thing I love about this game is people play the deck they want to play a lot of times. So that kind of affected the ability to counter this flash in the pan deck. But moving forward, and we'll talk about this in another video when I talk about fractals, there's a lot of Fantasia hate in the game. There's a lot of Fractal hate in the game that can slow down the deck really, really bad. There's also Fractals just kind of can struggle into like an go wide ally strategy. So it'll be interesting to see if Fractals like switch to like maybe a win variant to try to slow that down. But regardless, it's going to be really interesting to see, like, will this deck stay where it's at or will it get countered? I think it will be countered slightly. But regardless, we did see Dao Chan in her inaugural event win the event against Xander. But I'm still rooting for my girl Tristan. We'll see how it goes. But I did build a Dao Chan deck that goes to level 3, a Terra build that I'm super excited about. But hopefully you enjoyed this. If you did, please leave a like, comment, subscribe. For my Grand Archive like enthusiasts, if I missed anything, please let me know. I try to remember everything I can and be as accurate as possible. But if I missed anything, definitely let me know. I have no issues with that. If you like this type of content, please leave a like, comment, or subscribe. If not me, though, it's completely fine. Go in the Grand Archive Discord, look in their content creation section. Let's find some more creators. Let's get more people seeing this game. And yeah, I'll see y'all next time on TC Talk. Thank y'all so much. Y'all have a nice day.